We are recording. All right, so I usually start this for the post guy. G'day there, and welcome to Melbourne Unreal. I'm your host, Tony Jack the Bear Mance. We are coming to you from Deluxe Mastering, which is in Melbourne, the world's most livable city, and I'm delighted today to have as our special guest, who came in at very last notice, Kim Lajoie from Obsessive Music.
How you doing, Jack?
Good, buddy. Awesome. So, just so you guys know, we were going to have Tom Larkin on today, but we'll have him on next week. Unfortunately, last minute thing come up with Tom, and we're looking forward to having him on the podcast. But certainly having Kim here is awesome. So, just to fill you in very quickly, I met Kim last year at this NMIT advisory committee council, where they asked a whole lot of industry people to come and sit down and talk about the things, you know, just to get ideas and brainstorm about formal education and, you know, the things that, you know, courses are doing, maybe not doing, just things to consider. And I'd never known Kim up until that point when I met him, and I was really impressed with the way he rolled. And over time, we just found we had lots of similar views on music, the world, and whatnot. And it just made me think, fuck, how is it I never came across this guy after all these years? But anyway, it wasn't meant to be until then. And you know, Kim and I have come up with a little this little side project that we'll talk about soon. But that's how I know Kim. So, Kim, good to have you on.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all, mate. So for people that don't know you, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do.
Well,
how you come to being in this chair on this sofa right now?
Well, it's a long story. I won't go through.
All right, let's do
the long version. I'll do the short version.
Let's do the 7-inch 45 RPM.
Yeah.
Radio friendly.
Yeah, we'll make it a hit.
Do it.
Make it a hit.
Do it.
So, about 25 years ago, a bit more than that, I got started in this music thing. I studied classical piano for over a decade. Studied composition, scored films for about 5 or 6 years, got into music production probably about a decade ago. Mm-hmm. As a composer, I really enjoyed working with other artists and collaborating, and that sort of got to the point where I was working on more music with other people than I was with, just solo work on my own.
Yeah.
And I've got a bit more of a technical bent than most other artists, so I sort of had my own studio set up and was doing my own recording and that sort of thing. And it sort of got to a point where the artists would come to me with their songs or their ideas for music, and then I'd be the one to help them to bring it to life, to sort of make it into a record.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And you've just recently written a book?
That's right. So in probably the last couple of years, I've been focusing more on, I've been doing a bit of teaching, taught a range of different music schools. I've written a book. I also mentor artists one-on-one, and I've sort of been focusing a lot more on helping artists with the mindset of what it takes to be an artist and what it takes to connect with their audience in a real human, emotional way.
Yeah, I think it's great. I really like that approach, because I don't think there's a lot of people out there that really delve into things as deeply as you do. But I think as an artist, you have that understanding, and you're able to bring that wisdom and that knowledge and experience to the table, rather than just teach them, how to be better players or better artists. I think you're, from what I've seen of your work, Kim, you've got a really great holistic approach to it. It's very practical, and you probably get to talk about things that other people don't necessarily tune into, because they either think they're either irrelevant or maybe not as important. And but I think you hit all the right shit that a lot of people don't talk about, mate, which is really important.
Well, I'm still figuring this out.
Aren't we all?
I'm not sitting here saying that I've got all the answers. I'll tell you something. I started Obsessive Music about 5 or 6 years ago because I was working with these artists, recording the EPs and the albums, and working together, making some really amazing music. And time and time again, I saw basically get lost down the back of the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we'd spend months working on something, and then they'd finish it and they'd do their launch and they'd sell 50 copies, and then it'd be forgotten.
Yeah.
And so that sort of really frustrated me because I mean I love music. I mean, fortunately we all love music here. I love music and I love working with the artists that I do, and it pained me.
Yeah.
You know, like that. It really sucks to watch artists put so much work into their music, and for them to not really reach an audience. So I started Obsessive Music about 5 or 6 years ago. At the time, thinking, well, what artists really need is management and promotion. And so what Obsessive Music began was like the integration of music production with strategy and promotion and a bit of management and mentoring and that sort of thing. And I quickly realized that promotion wasn't really the key. You know, from the outside, it sort of looked like, well, the artists, they do their thing, but then they're not promoting it enough, or they're not promoting it right, and so it doesn't get anywhere. But what I found is that the actual promotion side of things, you know, I include publicity and video production and photography and all of that in the promotion umbrella. Promotion on its own is not really going to get anywhere, because what is really key is the creative direction behind it. Because
well, these days there's so much, like, people now can buy all their likes and create this whole marketing spin around them, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sell more units or that the material's good.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, you can send your CD out to all of the radio stations and all of the shows and all of the magazines and all of the websites and bloggers, but that's not going to get you anywhere if you haven't really thought deeply about who your audience is and how you want to reach them. And if you have, then you don't need to do a blanket carpet bomb. You don't need to send your music out everywhere. You just need to send it out to the places where the people who you want to pay attention to it are paying attention.
So just put some thought behind it, and like you said, think about your audience, think about who you want to connect with, and kind of focus there on the people that are more than likely would probably resonate with what you do, but still allowing for obviously other people that could come out from the periphery. But still, there's got to be a target.
Yeah, absolutely,
target,
absolutely. And that's something that I find a lot of artists have difficulty with, especially early on. And this is really interesting because we all start making music because we love music, because we love the experience of listening to music, and we think, well, this is so amazing, I want to be able to make music. And then we do it, and we love, and we suck. We pick up a guitar or sit down at the piano or whatever, and we suck. Yeah. But we love the experience of it.
Yeah.
And so we all start out making music purely as an experiential pastime, if you like. It's something that I want to do it because it feels good to do.
It's a leisure activity.
That's right. Yeah. But then some artists get to a point where that's not enough, where that they're not satisfied with making their music on their own and sharing it with their 40 or 50 friends and family.
Yeah.
And they've got higher ambitions and they want to grow beyond that.
Yeah.
But one of the real hurdles is unlearning their previous musical experience of being music is for me, music is what makes me feel great, and to hell with anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the really big hurdles, is realizing, well, actually, if you want to grow, if you want to take it seriously, then your music is not just for you, but it's for your audience.
Yeah.
And it's a contribution. It's a very valuable contribution.
Yeah.
To your audience. And that doesn't mean it's not selling out. A lot of artists sort of sometimes think, well, it's I don't want to sell out, or I don't want to, give up my creative direction, or I don't want to sort of follow the trends or do what's popular or what's cool. It's not that at all. You have to love your own music. You have to, absolutely, because that's the only way you're going to get the motivation and the energy and the strength, and you're going to keep it for the long haul. You have to love what you're doing, but you also have to realize that other people can love it too.
Yeah.
And that those other people are they're real people. They've got names, they've got lives, they've got hopes and fears and sensitivities and desires and tastes, and they're not cardboard cutout. This is not the major label game of we're going to market to 20 to 25-year-old women who have blah blah blah. Like it's not demographics. They're real people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're real individual. You can pick up the phone and call them. You can have a conversation with them after a gig.
Yeah. It's great these days. I find that now with the internet and with more and more indie artists being out there, that now there's so much more access directly to the artist, be it at a gig or online, whereas 30 years ago it was a fan club where you'd write a letter to, and more often than not it was this kind of generic fucking letter, you know, hey, thanks very much, that everyone got. And it was something, but it wasn't like it is now, where, you know, you've got a much more personal connection to the artist, and that, I think, provides great feedback for us too. So that again, it's about, you know, knowing your audience and knowing what they want, and not, as you said, it's not about selling out or just filling the demand or the perceived demand. But
Well, that's right.
But at least, you know, knowing who you want to attract and who you want to, you know, present to. Knowing though that those people will at the very least be open to what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
You know, so
They've got the potential to fall in love.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, that's what you need to aim for. It's not just, you know, some people gonna like it, and you're gonna aim for someone to like. You're gonna aim for someone to fall in love with your music.
Yeah.
And not everyone's gonna fall in love with your music. I
No,
mean, isn't it wonderful? We all got different tastes in music, and we're not all forced to like the same thing. We all got our own sound, our own taste, our own preference for what we like.
Most definitely.
And whatever music, I mean, I've seen every style of music find an audience. You know, you if someone comes to me and says their music is too obscure, then I'll tell them flat out that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some of the weirdest stuff find an audience of people that fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And it's really about understanding who those people are for you.
Yeah.
Well, for the artists.
Yeah. Tell us about your book. You got a copy to show?
Yes, I do.
Come on, let's show the cover out. Let's plug this fucking thing.
Yes. So this is the book I wrote. It's just came out at the end of last year. It is called The Golden Age of The Golden Age of Independent Music, and it's basically a distillation of my thoughts and opinions about the industry, about what artists need to do, what they need to understand to really see. I mean, this is not like an instruction manual of do this step, do this step, do this step, do this step, and then you will be successful. This is really about helping artists to see.
Yeah.
To be able to really open their eyes to what the industry is like these days, and how the game has changed fundamentally. Because, I mean, we could talk about the technology all day long. We can talk about, well, the internet's here and you can get plugins and you can record at home, or you could do this or that. But ultimately, what's changed is empathy, is connecting with people on a deep human level, from one human to another.
Is that because of the accessibility between fans and artists?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, you know, before the internet, it was like you write in to join the mailing, you know, the fan club. These days, it's so much richer. And I'll tell you something, I recently, just recently now got around to reading Amanda Palmer's book. It's called The Art of Asking. And it's basically about her story of how she learnt to connect with her audience as part of, you know, her solo music and with her duo, the Dresden Dolls.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this part at the moment where she's talking about the difference between the way her label saw the industry and the way that she saw the industry.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how, as she sees it, the most important job of an artist is to connect with the audience. And the music is almost like a vessel for it, but it's bigger than the music. It's bigger than, you know, your 3 minutes of sound. It's about the connection, it's about the feelings that people have, it's about the audience feeling like they're a part of a tribe, that they're part of something bigger than themselves. And by contrast, her label was, you know, about like, let's get it on the cool radio stations, or let's get it in shops around the country, or, you know, that let's get an interview in some big magazine or whatever. Going for, you know, like trying to reach broadly everybody, but not really being very specific about it, and not being very powerful about it. There's a big difference between someone who sort of goes up and says, "Well, look, hey, listen to this song. Anybody, please, hey, listen to this song," versus the person who says, "Well, look, I understand you, and I see you, and I know what's behind those eyes, and I think you're going to love what I've got here for you."
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very different approach.
Well, I think it's again, I haven't read the book as yet. I'm a shithouse reader when it comes to books. Although I love the fact that it's thin. I said to Kim, this is for me, because I usually do my reading in the toilet. This is a 6 or 7 shitter. So I've yet to go through it, but I will. I mean, mercifully, it's not too long, because I'm not great at reading books at the best of times. But so, what inspired you to write all this, mate? Because I think it's a very welcome thing. What was the genesis of this?
Well, it really came through. I mean, I talk to artists every day,
mm-hmm.
and I usually when I meet with artists, it's an hour and a half, like really getting into meaty topics,
mm-hmm.
and it sort of got to a point where A, I realised I was starting to repeat myself, and B, I realised that I've actually got more to say that's relevant to the artists I'm working with than I can fit in this period of time.
Yeah.
And it sort of grew from there, and it wasn't like I thought, I'm going to write a book. What am I going to put in it? Like, write a book for the sake of it being a book. It was more like, I've got this that I need to say, and I thought about different formats to present it, and I realised that I think a book is actually going to work best. And the reason for that is because this is a way that I can go into a lot more detail and link a lot of sort of more abstract topics together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like reading a blog post in between everything else, and it's not like like what doing like it's different to a video. It's different to
the old blasted phone. Don't you love it?
Yeah.
Don't you love it?
It's different to a video. It's different to a workshop. It's different to other forms of communication, and it's something that I thought it's important because people are going to want to reread it. People are going to want to slow down and read over some sections. They're going to want to be able to take it at their own pace, and the experience of reading, like holding and absorbing a physical book, is vastly different to the experience of reading on the screen, and that's something that that became very clear to me actually when I was running the magazine Melbourne Guru last year and the year before. That as much, as great as the internet is, and it's amazing. And as great as our phones are, and tablets and laptops and all of this, it's not the same as actually sitting down and cracking open a book.
Yeah. I've yet to discover the joy of that. Maybe one day, maybe this book will change it for me. Who knows?
I'd be honoured if it does.
Yeah, who knows? So, in your opinion, what do you think is the greatest challenge for artists these days, or in amongst the greatest challenges that you've seen with the people that you've encountered?
I'd say there's really two hurdles that artists need to overcome, and these are very, very difficult. I make it sound easy when I talk about it, but it's not easy at all. Number one is the need to accept that your art is for an audience, to acknowledge that there's an audience out there for you who need your art, that it's that like I said, they're going to fall in love with it, and that you need to understand that audience, and you need to connect with them, and you need to understand the contribution that your art makes to them. That's the first. The second hurdle is accepting that your art is not for everybody. And this is something that I keep coming across, that artists tell me when I ask them who's their art for, or have they thought about defining who their audience is, and they tell me, well, my art is for everybody, everybody enjoys or should enjoy my style of music. And I say, well, actually, that's not really true. Art, by its very nature, is divisive. You could put a piece of art in front of two people, and one person will say, yes, this is art. The other person will say, no, this is not art. They're both right. It's people. Everybody brings their own experience and their own desires and fears and values and beliefs and prejudices and sensitivities to every artistic experience that they have.
Yeah.
And like a 20-year-old will have a different experience than an 80-year-old to a piece of art. A gay black woman will have a different experience to a straight white man. They've got their own, like, they're not cardboard cutouts, they're real people.
Yeah.
And they bring that baggage to your music. And they experience it in different ways, and your music will resonate more with some people than with others. And so that's really the cusp of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think they need to accept, as we all do, that we're not going to be everyone's cup of hemlock.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like what we do, and I don't think that's really part of the game. Although human conditioning has brought us to the point where we want the validation, we want the acceptance, and that's all fine, and that's great. But sometimes that can be a crippling thing.
Yeah.
For some artists, because I often get asked all the time, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Because all they really want to hear is, hey, it's great. It's great.
Yes.
And
this is real. Your work is valid.
Yeah, and for the most part, it is. For me, it's. I wouldn't work on anything that I didn't like, and I'm pretty broad in what it is that I do like. But there are just sometimes with what I work, there are some things that I would play in the car, and I would have. They're the sort of things that if I heard them for the first time in the store, I'd be saying, "Fuck, what's this?" Or I'd want to buy it. Mm-hmm. And some things not necessarily so, but it doesn't mean I still don't enjoy them for what they are. Ultimately, for me, it's an opportunity to work. But I get asked all the time, "What do you think? What do you think?" And some and a few weeks back, I had 3 people in a row in a week ask me about Triple J, and I did a video about that, and it went viral, and I'm really glad people got something out of it. But the other thing I think with artists is that, and this is going sort of even deeper, is that it's a self-esteem thing. I think there is this thing subconsciously going on, and I think this applies to all of us because it's all a part of our conditioning and how we were brought up, about not feeling worthy and not feeling like if someone doesn't like it, then that they reflects really badly. But when you think about it, it's like that. It's like that thing where you tell somebody 100 qualities about them, 99 are great. It's like, Kim, you're awesome, you're great, you're talented, but you've got a big nose. Chances are that's what you'll dwell on, or it might not ruin your life because you're a little bit more aware, but it'll still stick with you. It'll stick with you. And hey, I'm the same. I'm the same. I'd be less than honest if I didn't tell you I wouldn't feel the same way. I'd like to think I wouldn't dwell on it as much as I once would have, but it can cripple people.
Yeah.
And they just want this certainty all the time. But again, until they get that certainty from within themselves, that validation from within themselves, and understanding those things, as you said, just knowing, hey, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this because I love doing it. Some people are going to dig it. Some people aren't going to dig it. But I would rather know that the 10 people that really dig what I do really dig it, and they're going to be loyal, and they're going to come to the gigs, and they'll buy the merch, and they'll buy CDs, or they will tell a friend about me.
Yeah.
Because the word of mouth is obviously the best advertising. That's the best marketing, and that's the marketing that you just can't buy.
Absolutely.
But I think the self-esteem issue is a really big one, particularly for artists, because we're sensitive creatures, and probably more sensitive than most, and probably full of more self-loathing and self-criticism than most as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is that the artist lifestyle, whatever that means to you, the artist lifestyle is an unconventional lifestyle. It's
unconventional according to
mainstream
society.
Well,
yeah, you're 9 to 5 and bullshit like that.
Yeah, that's right. You're not sort of showing up to work at 9 in the morning, and you're wearing a suit and you clock in and you sit at a desk, and then you leave at 5 o'clock at night, and and you have a house and you have a family and that sort of thing. I mean, like it's not that. It's different. And so the like being an artist, or being anyone who moves outside of what mainstream society tells us is normal, is always going to be something that's going to sow seeds of doubt, because you're always going to be surrounded with, did I make the right choice? What do other people think? Is this all a big mistake?
Yeah.
Or and it takes a lot of self belief and internal strength to stay the course.
Most definitely.
To be able to say, no, look, there's a bunch of people who are telling me that I'm doing it wrong. There's a bunch of people who love me and care for me and are trying to pull me back onto the mainstream path out of love.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of strength to say, actually, no, that's not for me. I'm going to figure it out myself. I'm going to take a different path. I'm going to,
cut my own course. And as I've said to people, it takes a lot of courage to be a trendsetter, as opposed to just being trendy.
Yeah.
And pandering to whatever the taste is of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they put something out, who's to say that is no longer relevant?
Yeah.
Because the latency sometimes from the time people have the inception of a song to the time it's recorded and it's finally ready for release. And so what do you think? What are you offering people these days? I mean, in terms of your mentoring, how do you tell me about your mentoring? Because this is going to lead into what you and I have created in recent times. But in the work you do, mentoring, what are the sort of things you do, and what are the kind of things that you mentor on? Is it strictly on music, or does it go a little bit more outside to more personal things in someone's life? Is it business? Is it just the music? Is it a holistic thing? I mean, how
the
what are the
focus
things
of
you
it?
talk about?
Yeah, the focus of it is strategy. So for the artists that I see regularly, it's about, okay, so where are we at now with your music, and what have we achieved so far, and what are the next steps, and what's the best way to go about doing them, or what kind of outcomes are we looking for over the next couple of months?
Yeah.
And approach it from a very practical point of view. But having said that, all the other stuff that you mentioned comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's talking more broadly about theory of who their audience is and how they can get to know their audience better, or it's things like talking about songwriting or performance, being able to craft a piece of music that connects with people. Things like business, about or even practical stuff like how do you book a gig, how do you actually get together a short list of venues that you'd want to play out, how do you find out how to contact bloggers or radio presenters, that sort of thing. And it also touches on the personal as well sometimes, because a lot of the biggest speed bumps, I guess, that artists come across are not actually not actually to do with their technical chops or their musical ability, but it's coming from more broadly in their personal life. And
that's been my experience too. With
that's
artists.
Right.
A lot of time although the flip side to that coin is sometimes some of the best art's been created when people are fucking going through it. And,
absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the struggling, starving artist, or it has to always be shit. But there's something really interesting that happens though when people. I mean, just one example off the top of my head. Fleetwood Mac Rumours album was created during a time when the band were in absolute turmoil and there was just shit going wrong left, right and centre. And yet somehow through all of this quagmire of crap, these guys got together and managed to pull out one of the greatest albums of all time. That'll be with us forever and a day.
Yeah.
So there's it's certainly something to be said about that. But also, when you're in a place where you're feeling really low, really down, really debilitated, your self-confidence is at an all low. You're not in this great state of coherence. You know, your heart and mind are not aligned together, and when you're not in that state, then more often than not, you're going to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
That later on you probably will learn to regret again, because of the, you know, you're not present, you're not in the moment, you're not feeling good about the world. And it doesn't mean that the world has to be perfect, but at the very least things are kind of functioning at a rate there where you're feeling good about the world, and therefore you're able to express through that much better, so yeah, man, I think it's great that we're seeing so much more mentoring happening, particularly in music circles, because there's a lot of artists, man, who there's a lot of education out there, a lot of courses, lots of tutorials, YouTube, and all that's great, and it all plays its part. But it's great to see now that there are more and more people who are now offering themselves to share their experience with those who want to listen, who want to be involved, and this leads me now to segues into what you and I have created, which is our for those of you who don't know, Kim and I do this thing called Jack and Kim's Kitchen, and we host it here. Well, we did one just over a month ago, but we're trying to make these things monthly or bi-monthly. But the idea is that we invite some musicians to come down who are making art and putting shit out, and to come and spend time with us here in my room here at Deluxe, and everyone gets to play a piece of their music, and we all get to have a say, and we leave it about six because that's a nice intimate number. It allows Kim and I to be able to talk to these people individually and give them some nice one-on-one attention. They don't feel rushed. They're not in and out the door. That's
the whole point of it.
And we also get a chance to, apart from just provide some kind of constructive input on listening to their stuff, I'm coming more from a sound mastering point of view. Kim comes also from a sound point of view, from a pre-production level, from from a marketing point of view, from other viewpoints that these kids probably would not have considered, but it also gives them an opportunity to be able to sit down and talk about that one particular thing that's stumbling them at this point in time, that we can help, if not address, at the very least offer some insights and some things for them to consider and then try out and see how it works for them. And as well as, we feed them and we take care of them, and it costs nothing. We do it for free. But we do it out of passion, and it's something that we love doing because, you and I, we've been recipients of great mentoring. But in this day and age, I think it's fantastic that we see more and more people who are willing to give time, share their expertise, share their experience, and hopefully inspire artists to go out there and create it. Because I don't know about you, mate, but mentoring was a big part of my development.
I think it's so important, especially with artists now, because we've got the technology. There's no artist that can put their hand on their heart and say, look, I'm not successful because I don't have the technology, I don't have the gear, or I don't have the internet presence, or you can get all of this and it's really easy. The difficult part is being able to see, being able to have the ideas, being able to have a pathway forward, being able to understand what your barriers are and what your speed bumps are, and to be able to overcome them. And that you can't buy that off the shelf.
Yeah,
sure. You can't fix that with a plug-in. That's something that it transcends technology or equipment or gear or all of that stuff. It's about what's in here.
Yeah, most definitely. Mindset's everything.
Yeah,
belief in yourself, and having the courage to go forward and just do what it is that you want to do, irrespective of what others may say. Well-meaning as it is, I think critics are good to a point, but as Rex Hunt once said, they never erected a statue or built a monument to honour a critic. Yeah. And it's true. And it's all it's easy for people to sit there and say, oh well, the standard, critics, they're just people who are projecting their bullshit onto you, and we've read all the memes, but I think criticism can be good and can be healthy when it's constructive, and I'm open to criticism when someone will come along to me. It's like we'll sit in the group and we'll make a critique on something, but at the very least we'll explain why we're saying this, and then offer some kind of alternative that maybe they hadn't considered.
Yeah.
Even if it's a shit idea, I'll still respect anyone who'll come to me with an idea to say why they're saying what they're saying, as opposed to it's just shit.
And that's exactly right. The purpose of it is not to tear someone down. It's the opposite, is to help bring them up. And this is sort of one of the really interesting things, is that if you really want to make progress in whatever it is you want to make progress in, you got to acknowledge that you're not perfect. You have to acknowledge that there are things that you're not doing very well and that you can do better. And it hurts sometimes. It takes courage to be able to confront that. But if you're in a safe place and you're looked after and you're cared for and you're loved, and there's people there who genuinely want the best for you, then that's a place where you can look at the areas that you need to improve.
Yeah.
That you could say, okay, hang on, let's consider this for a moment.
Yeah.
You know.
And musicians are probably some of the most the harshest self-critics of all. But like I said, it's great to be aware of yourself and know. But it's when you start beating yourself up about it and saying that I'm shit, this is shit, no one's going to like it. Insert any other negative self-talk you want into the brackets. But there's got to be a point where it's fine to acknowledge it, understand it, but then say, okay, well, now what do I do? How do I sort this out, or how can I do this better?
Yeah.
And this is where an outsider person can help pick you up and make you the observer of your or help make you the observer of your situation.
Yeah.
It's like a fight in the ring. When he's fighting, it's not the coach in the corner is going to be able to see where he is opening himself up for an uppercut or a cross or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like being that person in the corner who can then take them out, show them like a video replay and say, hey, you see, this is where you're opened up, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, man, I think, so it's been fun so far. We've only done one, and we've got another one coming at the 20th of March, I think.
20th, Sunday the 20th.
And
looking forward to it.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's, I think it's been fun so far, and the kids that have come through so far have been really good. And Kim has set up a closed group on Facebook for the guys that are involved with it, and again to help build a sense of community, because I think that's really important
to help continue the conversation as well. Because I mean, we've got a good chunk of the afternoon, but there's stuff that we talk about that would take so much longer, and so the Facebook group is a way to continue that. Again, it's a closed environment. It's not out in public for everyone to ridicule. Everyone behaves themselves, and it's a way to continue the discussions and talk about the ideas that we start talking about in the workshop, and keep it going, because it doesn't just end at the end of the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. We're entering into a relationship with these guys, and we're like I said, we're building community. We're building a family. And it's great already to see with the 6 people that we got. I haven't been participating as much as I'd like, so forgive me. And thank you. I must say thank you for all the work you fucking put into it, man. Just setting all the shit up that I'm not all that good at doing, and helping this puppy float. But and I lost my trail of thought as to what I was about to say. Anyway, must have been bullshit. It'll come to me later. Of course it will.
It'll come to you later.
It'll come to me later. My trail of thought. No, but I think it's been a wonderful initiative, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's great to see these kids already they're networking with each other, and these are kids who probably otherwise would not have come across each other.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll never know that for sure, but probably less than likely, and maybe create these some interesting collaborations at downtime.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that.
As well as then as they learn more stuff and they become more involved, and then they get a chance to serve other people too, and take on their experience and help other kids along the way, and this whole paying it forward thing. Which is really, I mean, that's really been my main motivation behind this. It's just like you. I was so fortunate, man, to have fucking awesome people who didn't know me from a bar of shit, but they liked my attitude, and they were happy to give time and show me things and music, life, you name it. And these are people I can never pay back, and not that they expect anything back either. But it was never lost on me, just the fact that anyone gave enough of a shit and fuck to want to sit down and genuinely listen to what you had to say, genuinely offer you. At least their perspective and their experience, and I found that incredibly helpful.
It makes such a difference. It makes such a difference.
We're in a position now where, thankfully, we've been in this industry long enough and survived long enough to make ourselves proven quantities. And while we may, again, we're not for everybody, but I think we've amassed enough value that we can bring to give to. They get those who want to listen, and thankfully there are kids who want to listen. They are looking for answers. They're looking for assistance. Some of them may look for all the answers in one place at one time, and that's an unrealistic thing. But I think most people are pretty realistic in their expectations to where they. If anything, I think maybe sometimes they hold themselves back a bit, and again, there's this kind of fear of I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not worthy of this. Maybe I don't. And again, it's a fine line, isn't it? Because you can't piss in their pocket, because you're not there to piss in their pocket, and you're not doing them any favours there, and you're not looking for a new best friend. But at the very least, to encourage them and help them see what they couldn't see. Like I said, the fight in the fight.
Exactly.
Pull them out. Hey, let's have a look at this. And see what's actually. Let's have another look at this and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And see maybe if now you can approach it with a different strategy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like climbing a tree. You can't make any progress when you're up a tree, but you've got to be able to climb a tree to be able to see the lay of the land.
Yeah, most definitely. So what new things are happening in your world, mate? What new projects are you working on? And have you launched the book?
The book?
Has it actually,
that was end of last year. When was it? October, November? End of last year. Yeah. And I've been getting some really good feedback from people who have read it. It's been artists who have read the whole thing in one sitting. They couldn't put it down. I've had artists who have said that it's given them...
That's a long shit, by the way.
It's a long shit,
That's a very, very long shit.
Yeah. I've had artists tell me that it's given them new inspiration and motivation to put more energy into their music, which is amazing to hear. I've had people ordering it from all over the world, like not just here in Melbourne, but I mean as far as Perth in Australia, and there's a few orders from the States and from Canada, and people who aren't even musicians, people who are artists of other art forms have found value in it, which is really fascinating, because I mean obviously the content of this book is all about music, but if you sort of read it and sort of every time I say music you just replace it with art, then a lot of it still rings true.
Sure.
Because it's about how you connect with people. It's about the role of art in society. It's about how things are very different now to how they were 50 years or 100 years ago. Very different.
Most definitely.
And so, I'm really pleased, but, not entirely surprised that people are getting a lot of value out of it.
So what are the new? You got any new projects on the go at the moment, or you just got enough? You're juggling enough grenades and chainsaws.
Yeah. In between, I mean, like the grindstone is the mentoring and the production work that I do, and I mean I've got a couple of R&B projects on at the moment, and I've just finished an electronica thing as well. Just what was it last week? And I'm sort of focused on that stuff at the moment. In between all of that, I've been putting together some material for an online course as well. But
Can you give us a bit more
Yeah,
an
yeah.
insight into the course?
Tell you a little bit about it.
Sure,
It's,
yeah. Whatever you can tell us, yeah.
Similar philosophy and thinking to, the stuff that's in the book and the stuff that I say, that I talk about in the workshops and to artists. But the focus of the online course is that it's much more specific, and it's all about practical steps. Things you can do, and the way it's structured is it's like, here is a practical thing you can do when you're writing your next song, or when you release your next song,
Yeah.
or when you're planning a gig, or when you're promoting your gig, or when you're playing your gig, or after the gig. And it's about, here are some sort of nose to the grindstone practical things. Like, it's not so much like pie in the sky sort of stuff, like, philosophy. It's more about, here are some actual things that you can do that are in line with what's in the book and the other stuff that I talk about that a lot of artists don't do. But it's much more focused on like, let's get a bit more practical,
Yeah. A bit more hands-on.
Yeah, that's right.
And a bit more relevant to their situation.
Yeah.
Perhaps. That's the thing I'm noticing, that education's changed now. There's been a lot of schools that teach a lot of theory, a lot of how to, how to set up a mic, and this is a compressor, and this is an EQ, and that. But what's being done though about what happens beyond that? So once you've got your qualification, that's beautiful. It's great. You've done all the study, and you got these new skills and talents and knowledge. But then what do I do with it? How do I monetize this? How do I make a career out of this? And that is something that I don't think it's necessarily easily taught either. I mean, I think you can give guidelines and you can help people on the way, but still ultimately I think it comes down to the individual and to how how driven they are. And some people are driven, but they just they've got so much energy and go, but they just don't know exactly where to channel it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the really fascinating thing about the industry, is that almost everybody who's working in the industry is the rest of the world calls what we do freelancing. We don't really have a word for it because that's just what everyone does. It's running your own business. It's a small operation which exists for the sole purpose of providing your services to someone else. And there's so few actual capital J jobs. I remember I was in front of a class sometime last year, and one of the students asked me, how do you get a job working in a studio? And I sort of had to burst his bubble.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that, you're right, that there's no sort of formula, because it's not like, you put in a job application and then you get a job and then you show up at 9 in the morning and, punch your timesheet. It's you've got to invent.
Yeah.
You've got to invent something new.
Yeah. Everyone's conditioned to think that it's linear, and it's anything but.
Yeah.
Life
that's
is anything but linear. There's no necessarily boom, 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 boom. Here are the steps. I mean, you can be offered certain steps, but it doesn't always work that way.
That's right.
Not always to the script, anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to be open to those little twists and turns, and sometimes those twists and turns could be good things, those unexpected things that go, wow, set you on a different trajectory and help you. With whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So how do you see the music industry in general and the future of it? What's your take on it? Where in your crystal ball,
My crystal ball.
Where do you see things are going?
I'm really, really excited for the future of independent artists. We all know the major record labels are slowly diminishing. I don't think they're going to go away forever.
No.
I don't think they're going to disappear. I think there's always going to be a place for what I call mass music. The Rihannas and Justin Timberlakes of the world. But, the real exciting part is what's happening outside of that. And that's in the world of independent artists and small labels as well are in there too. And, when I call this book The Golden Age of Independent Music, not that we're in it now, but that I predict it'll be in about 5 to 10 years, that we're going to have what I see as the golden age of independent music. And the reason I say that it's just a little bit over the horizon is because even though we've got the technology, we've got the gear, we've got the connections, what's missing is attitude. And it'll take a few years. It'll take a few years for it to really, really take like wildfire.
Yeah.
You know, but when it does, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh
well,
boy.
well, I'll look forward.
It's going to be amazing.
I look forward to that time.
Yeah.
I think look, I'm not an artist. I don't make music, but I've been around enough and to know that it's not easy. But here's the thing: it was never easy. You know,
That's
even
right.
even in the old so-called halcyon days when record sales were through the roof. I mean, a lot of bands, the vast majority of bands, were making a lot of money. If anything, they were locked into these contracts that they were beholden to these record companies, seemingly forever. And we're seeing this now. We're seeing this proliferation of all these bands now reforming because, for most of them, they're finally out of their contractual obligation to their previous record company, and now they're free to be able to do what they want to do with their art, so that they can finally actually make some money. I think the people's perception of artists, seeing crowded venues and record sales and being number one on the charts as, wow, these guys are fucking rolling in it, when that's not the case at all. But even back in the so-called good old days, again, it was a very select few that actually got to live the champagne lifestyle.
There weren't that many parties with coke and hookers.
No.
They were there, but
they were there.
There weren't that many.
They were there. No, they definitely were there, and most of them were on the artist tab, which they didn't realise until after they got the bill.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's an exciting time too, and I think now with I think the biggest challenge I see with my clients is how do we get it out there, and to get exposure, obviously to get radio, to get it onto video channels and whatnot, because excuse me, oh my god, sorry, because they're wanting to get their shit out there, but they just don't know how, and because they want to share their expression, with people, as well as the obvious of being able to build enough critical mass in their business whereby they can pursue art as a full-time venture, not just as something that they do, but they need to do something else alongside while they're doing it, just to get to that, and that sometimes can take a lifetime, but that's okay. I think at least as an artist, I think I will take my hat off to any artist who has the gumption to put themselves out there and to keep trying, and never give up, because you never.
It takes a lot of guts.
It does, and particularly in our culture where we don't appreciate, as I mean in a general sense, Australia. We're a young country, so we haven't got the benefit of something like Europe, which has had centuries and centuries of culture and music and being able to look at art in a different way, and also value it and respect it. Like here, when you tell someone you're an artist, the usual response is, "Oh, that's nice, but what do you actually do?" Yeah. It's a great hobby. But it's not a profession, or in fact, it's a lifestyle. You think about being.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Not everyone really understands it, and I don't think they're really meant to understand it, but we do. Musicians and creatives, we're definitely cut from a different cloth. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. No, that's for sure. All right, Kim. Well, we'll wind it up here for the time being.
It's been famous.
It has been, mate. Thank you so much for coming on.
And, thank you so much for having me. Seriously.
And mate, just doing this workshop that we've been doing. I'm looking forward to doing more of those. It's great. It's really great to have your input and your perspective. Just bringing talking about areas that I don't necessarily have the experience in, but at least that's offering some value for these kids who are looking for some guidance and looking for people, not necessarily to spoon feed them, but at least to
give them a few ideas.
And help them on their way. And just give them enough a nudge that then allows them to go on their journey with some confidence moving forward. So
they got to do it. I mean, they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
No one can do it for him. And I mean, as an artist that can outsource almost everything. You know, they can get someone to, to mix their songs or master their songs or to put together a press release or to make a music video.
Yeah.
And they can get other people to help. But ultimately, it's their creative direction.
Yeah.
And it's their relationship with their audience. And they've got to be in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one can do that for them.
Yeah, I agree. Beautiful. Kim Lajoie,
Thank you very much, Jack.
I love the fuck out of you, dude. Thank you so much. It's been awesome to have you here. Thank you so much. It really is. Thank you.
Likewise.
All right.
Likewise. Right back at you.
Thanks, mate. All right, guys. That's it for us for today. I'm looking forward to having Tom Larkin in next week, and then we'll put him up on the YouTube channel. So thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll sign off as I always say. I love you, fuckers, and please remember, be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourselves. All right. See you guys.